Hey, all right, everybody. Welcome. I'm Nick Baldwin. We have Saria here, Saria Finkelstein. We're gonna introduce her in a second, but lots of people jumping in on the Zoom. Hey, if you're jumping in, do us a favor, drop in the chat where you're watching us from, so we like to know where all our adoring fans are this morning. So that's kind of fun to know. Cool, and it also shows us they can hear us and that the chat works.
Always good to know.
Lots of different,
Love it.
lots of different locations. I see a few New Jersey people there. Those are my people down the shore. Saw some Point Pleasant. Oh, there's a Detroit. Who's from Detroit? I'm in the Detroit area too. All right, cool. Well, let's get started. Today we have a really fun webinar. I mean, I don't know if it's fun, but it's something that
We
uh
always have
I
fun,
mean, we always
so
have fun.
it'd be fun.
We
Yeah.
always have fun. Even in light of things that aren't fun, we try to have fun anyway. We're going to talk about like the new age of real estate, because now with this NAR settlement, if you haven't been doing it before, you're going to now have to legally do it, get buyer representation no matter what. And we have the master of that with us today, Saria Finkelstein, who, how long have you been in real estate? Like 10 years?
Aging myself. I'm in year 14. I know I don't look
14.
it.
14. Well, you don't look like it's aging you. So, for me, my hair fell out. But you have been in the business for 14 years. A majority of your business has usually been buyers. I know that now it's more 50-50 buyers and listings because you're a new mama. So you want to get that extra leverage with listings. But I also want to mention Saria was 30 under 30. We can't forget to mention that. She's on a team that is run by her aunt Lori Reeder, and they're out of Fort Lauderdale, and she's with Keller Williams. And you guys sell like how many houses a year as a team?
I mean, like 5 billion,
5 billion?
basically.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
thousand, right?
It's up somewhere around 1,000, some years more, some years less, but we're hover around that number.
Yeah, and Saria usually does about 100 deals, 70 to 100 deals, with half of them being buyers. And she always has been heavy on buyer representation and buyer consultations, and not just like 5 minute, how much can you afford, where do you want to live, how many bedrooms. We're talking like hour and a half, 2 hour buyer consults and buyer representation agreements, and she gets them signed every single time. And so I thought she'd be the perfect person to discuss that with us. So thanks for being here.
What an intro. I appreciate
I
that.
know. I just realized I was like, I should wrap this up because it's already over. Um, no, so let's talk. Let's just jump in, Surya. So you know, everyone's all nervous. They're worried. What if, what do I say? How do I get these agreements signed? What if they don't want to sign them? So basically, let's just start off with what's your approach on getting listing agreements signed with each person that you represent? Like, are there any strategies that are effective, or is there anything that you particularly say to help them feel comfortable? So what does that look like to get that commitment from them?
So first of all, I love that you're calling them listings because that's what we've been doing for years is calling them buyer listings, right? Because any of you guys out there, drop in the chat, would you take a listing without a listing agreement signed? Pretty sure even before those answers start rolling in, the answer is going to be no, right? So why would you work with a buyer without one? It never really made sense to me why people they were wasting their time, the client's time, et cetera, and they just weren't treating it like a business. So this is something that now I've been doing close to 14 years, because I knew my value and I knew what that value was to the client. So if you came here looking for like a one-liner script that's going to make them sign it every time, I don't really believe that exists, guys. I hate to break that to you. For me, the strategy is going through the motions. And what does that mean? That means one, you've got to know how to get them into a consultation, right? If you can't get them into a consultation, we're not getting anywhere. So knowing how to be able to show the value enough to get them to buy into that consultation is the first step, right? Then knowing how to perform a rock star buyer consultation, which we call a strategy session, because that's exactly what it is. We're strategizing about how we can make this happen for them. And what we found is when we started changing the language and saying strategy session, people were more receptive than to a buyer consultation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Knowing what to say in that consultation, what to go over, what's too much, what's too little, how to build that rapport. And then if you're able to do all of that successfully, it's almost a no-brainer at that point for them to sign on and agree to work with you. It's just making sure you're actually doing all the steps.
True. So you don't want to, say you're going to do certain things and not do those things. That I
Right.
think that can be, um, you know, that can be something that a lot of agents might run into, right? They'll overpromise and underdeliver. But I do like the way you worded it as a strategy session. Like, if you come in here for a consultation, that sounds like you're trying to sell them a timeshare. Nobody likes that. And
Right.
then if you say, hey, let's strategize around how we're going to find you your house or how we're going to find you your forever home or whatever it is.
It's more about them,
Yeah.
right? And so, I think where a lot of people went wrong for a long time and where things kind of changed after the pandemic and whatnot is people started just doing a consult on the go or skipping the consult altogether. And I think that's where the public started to really look at us like we were just door openers who made a lot of money. And so I think that using that strategy session as a place to show them that you're a professional, show them that you are knowledge and why they would be lucky to work with you is so, so important, right? Like I walk into every single one of my consults and I literally am my own hype girl and I say, dang, how lucky are they that I'm the one that's about to walk in that door? I like want to walk in there and give them high fives, like, you did it. Good job. Congrats.
Go
Right. But
team.
go team. But if you're not feeling that way, you've got to look back this way and say, what am I not providing? What am I not doing in that consult that I don't feel that they're the lucky ones?
Yeah. So what do you do in a situation where you get a call and they're like, hey, we're at this house. We want to see it. You never met them before, right? What do you do in that situation? Because I know, listen, we're in one of those markets where a lot of agents are just chasing these leads. So, what could you say to someone who just tells you they're in front of a house, they want to see it right now? What
So
do
I
you say?
think those calls are a lot more rare that they're actually in front of the house. However, they
Okay,
happen.
so like, what if they're
More
like, hey,
so,
I saw this house on your website
right.
and I want to see it in an hour or whatever?
Awesome. I would love to set up that appointment and reach out to the seller. Before we have that meeting, let's go ahead and have a strategy session at my office so that when we do see the house and it's something that you're ready to move forward with, you already know all of the steps for us to move forward of how to make sure we get you that house. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
always, you want to give them what they want, right? I don't want to
sure.
start off the relationship butting heads by saying, no, sorry, you can't see the house until I like chain you to a desk and make you talk to me. I'm going to give them what they want, tell them, okay, I'm going to set up that appointment so we can see it right after our meeting.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And I think a lot of agents, you mentioned before, like you're your own hype girl, you know, I think a lot of agents don't they're so worried about losing the client that they don't see their own value, right? They're
Yeah.
like so they don't even want to bring it up because they're like, I'm gonna lose this person. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's again, we got to look back here and see what am I not providing that I'm afraid that they're not going to want to work with me. Right. You've got to be able to ask yourself and say, would I be willing to pay me for my services?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, that's a deeper problem that we've got to really figure out the solution to. The answer should be yes. Because if you don't know your own value and you can't articulate it, that's the key.
Hmm.
So many people, they might feel that they are valuable, but they don't know how to actually put it into words. That's what you guys need to work on. that elevator pitch when you meet someone in an elevator of why they should work with you, why you're a valuable resource, and why you're the professional. I mean, where I live, there's over 80,000 realtors. We have the
Crazy.
largest real estate board in the world. And so I've got to offer something that everyone else isn't. So what's your secret sauce? Can you put it into words?
Yeah, so let's talk about the consultations in terms of, tailoring it to the specific needs of each client. I don't, are they,
Yeah.
are, do you ask the same questions to everybody, or do you kind of feel them out and, just kind of take it in any direction depending on, how they're feeling or what they're saying? Like, what does that look like?
So the general questions start the same, right? And I think that the most important thing to understand is that the questions that are on your paper are just like the first level, right? That's us snorkeling on the surface, trying to get a little bit of information. The real gold, the real information that we need is when we scuba and we go deeper. And so, yeah, sure, if it's someone who's looking for a condo, there's going to be questions that are a little bit different. If it's an investor, they're going to be a little bit different. However, overall, typically, most of the questions start the same. Where you start to be able to set yourself apart and be the agent that they need is knowing those follow-up questions. So what I would challenge you guys to do is if you have a questionnaire that you use at every consult, if you don't, create one. If you need one, you can reach out to me and I can share it with you. Look at those questions on that questionnaire. And then I challenge you to go write an additional 3 to 5 questions for each of those questions as a next follow up question, because that's where that information is going to come from. Right. So, like when you ask someone, do you want a 1 story or 2 story house? And they say, oh, either is fine. Most realtors are just going to write either. I've got at least 5 questions. I'm going to go deeper. Okay, great. That's awesome that you're open to different floor plans. Now, let me ask you, does it matter if the master is upstairs or downstairs? Okay, great. Well, if that primary bedroom is upstairs, do you need any other bedrooms near that bedroom, or would you prefer that bedroom further away from other bedrooms? Do you have any older family members that might come and visit where you need to have another bedroom on the bottom floor that's has a bathroom? Is that something that might be something that you need down the road? My goal in that consult is to find questions that they haven't thought about.
Mm-hmm.
If they can answer everything right away, I didn't go deep enough. I want them to look at each other and be like, oh, wow, that's actually not something I've thought about.
Because you
That,
know what? I don't mean to interrupt. A lot of times
yeah,
people come in, they're like, "We already know what we want. We're
right.
we're fine." And
Or,
then
or
you're asking
even
them these
worse,
questions, and they're looking at each other like, "Did we? Do you want to?"
right. Or even worse, where they're like, we're going to be your easiest clients. We have no criteria. I'm like, oh no, this is going to be rough. Right. So, um, for me, it's I want them to look at each other and question it and have to actually think about an answer. Then I'm getting their real answer. Now, in order to do that, you've got to get comfortable with silence because sometimes those questions are going to make them think for a long time. And you have to be comfortable sitting there and waiting for the real answer. And I know it's hard. It's really hard for us because we want to then try to rephrase the question, say it in a different way to kind of coach them into giving you an answer. But then you're not getting their real answer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's interesting and important to ask a question after a question because you know how many times have we heard from our clients, "How come you never showed me this property and it looks great?" And you're like, "Well, I didn't show it to you because it has carpet and you said you didn't want carpet." But yeah, there's only carpet in the bedroom. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, if you
Yep.
had gone deeper and said, "Well, what if I showed you your ideal home, but there was carpet in the bedroom? Would you not want to see it?" Yeah, I'd still want to see it because we
Yeah,
can rip up the carpet. Okay, so then carpet's not something that's deal breaker for you, right? I
exactly.
remember that example specifically from
Hmm.
when we talked about this, and I think it's
Hmm.
so important because you don't want to be stuck in that situation where you're like, "Why didn't I show them that home? I didn't ask them enough questions."
Right. So that's the thing, right? The myth out there that everyone says buyers are liars. Has anybody heard that before? Say yes
Yeah.
in the chat if you've heard that before, right? Really, it's the problem was us because we didn't ask enough questions. So it wasn't that they lied. We didn't go deep enough to find out and help them uncover what they really wanted, what they really needed, so that we could go out there and find it. I mean, again, like who out there has had a buyer go and buy a house at an open house that was nothing like what they told you? It's happened to most of us, if not all of us. And again, that problem comes back to not going deep enough in that strategy
Yeah.
session. So, like these strategy sessions you guys are having on the hood of a car for 10 minutes after showing a house, that's not it, guys. You've got to
That's so
be the
funny.
professional. You've got to get them into your office. What if you called your dentist to go make an appointment and they were like, "Oh yeah, I can fit you into my schedule. Let me meet you in the parking lot. We'll meet outside. We'll do a quick 10 to 15-minute checkup and we'll be good."
Yeah.
Like, no, right? We're a professional. We need to meet in an office. You want to meet at a coffee place? Fine. I'll give you that one, maybe, right? But meet them in the office. It sets you up as the professional. It starts the relationship off in the right
Yeah.
way.
How a lot of people are probably wondering, like, all right, how do I communicate the benefits of getting a buyer listing agreement signed? Like, how do I, because I think a lot of agents are going to say, I need you to sign this because I need to know that blah, 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 blah. Whereas, like, that's making it about you. You're the reason why it needs to be signed, right? So, how do you convey what's in it for the buyer?
Okay, so before we go there,
Okay.
first of all, with all of the lawsuits and happening, it actually may start to be easier than it's ever been because
Well,
they're
right,
going
because but now,
wild,
right, because you could
right?
say this is the law, but like, you know,
So before we get into like how do you convey it, for me, what's important for you guys to understand is like what that consult looks like. Because if you can't hit all of the points in the consult, you didn't earn the right to get that signed.
true.
Right. So for me, that consultation is me auditioning for to get the part of being their real estate consultant that they trust. And in order to do that, I've got to go through a few certain steps. So do we want to kind of go through what those look like?
Yeah, sure. And I
Okay.
might also add, you never know how the buyer is going to uh react to this new way of doing business. They
There's going to be
might,
some limbo, I'm sure.
well, no, what I mean is like before it was let's just we don't have to sign an agreement. We could just meet this agent,
Right.
and if we don't like them, we'll go to another agent. Maybe you never know. They might actually meet with several agents before they get locked into something. So
Mhm.
I actually think your value proposition is probably more important than it was before because,
100%.
who wants to be locked into a contract with someone they don't appreciate or like?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Right. So one, we've got to work on getting them into the console. Now, you want to do Zoom consults? I do great on Zoom consults also. I'm not opposed to a Zoom consult, meeting them where they're at. Maybe they've got busy lives, they can only meet late at night. Like, I'm okay with that too. That works for me. I'm
Yep.
just trying to get you away from the strategy session on the hood of a car. Okay. That's what we're trying to avoid. So, what that consult looks like. The first thing that I'm going to do is give them what they want, which is they want to talk about them. I'm going to go through the questions first because that is what they want to discuss. Right. And so it's not going to just be, okay, how many bedrooms and bathrooms? What location do you want to be in? And what's your price point? Please, it's got to go deeper than that. So we're going to go through that. And that is where it's going to help me build rapport with them. Are they going to tell me that they want a pool because they like to have family over? Are they going to tell me that they want a certain school district because they have kids? Every little answer that they give me is another ping point for me to build that relationship and get closer and closer with them. So that first part of the consult is me trying to build that rapport and be able to understand not just what they want, but why they want it. That's my job. So I'm going to build that rapport. Now, after the questions, kind of what you were referencing from a previous webinar we did is where I go into the 5 must-haves, right? So we go through all of the questions. They get to share everything they want, everything that need, everything that makes their heart pitter patter. And then I'm going to say, okay, great. This is your perfect house. If we could draw it, if we could build it, this is what it would be. Now, what I want to talk about are your 5 must-haves. These are your non-negotiables. If the house doesn't have it, you're simply not buying it, not considering it. What would you say those are? And that's where we're going to challenge them a little bit. Like the example that Nick said, well, we don't want carpet. Okay, awesome. I understand. I don't like carpet either. But let me just clarify and make sure I understand. So if we found you a house that had the pool that you wanted, it was in the perfect school district, it had the perfect floor plan that you wanted, but one of the rooms had carpet, you wouldn't buy it. Am I understanding that right? And you're going to say, oh, no, 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 we would do that. Okay, great. So we can agree then that that's not a must have, right? Yes. Okay. And then I'm going to cross it off on the paper. Like I like to anchor it with something, right?
With
Cross
a
it off.
Sharpie.
Exact black Sharpie right through it. So going through that exercise can feel a little bit redundant when we talk about it. But when you're going through it with the client, it helps them get such clarity on what they actually want, what they actually need. And it helps you get that clarity. And in the end, it seems so simple what they actually need, right? Those questions, it can seem so broad. And then going to that must haves makes it so simple what they actually need. Okay. So after that, I'm going to go through the home buying process. That's my chance to show them my expertise in the process, my knowledge of the process, why I am the person that's for them, that's going to guide them and get them through. Now, some of that is going to be like instilling a little bit of fear in them of things that can come up during the process. Look, there's a lot of turbulence that can happen when we go through this process. Here's a couple of things that I'm going to mention. I'm armed and ready to help you get through all of them because we want them to feel they need us,
Yeah.
right? We want them to have a little bit of fear of doing this on their own. Like, oh, wow. By the end, I want it to be when I present that buyer agency, they're like, oh, please, like they're asking for it before I'm even presenting it. That's the goal, right? So going through that you're the expert, what that home buying process looks like. And that means like talking them deep, and every state is different. So I'm not going to go deep, but talking them deeply about what that inspection process looks like. What are their ins and outs of the contract, things like that, right? So I have like a timeline to go through with them that for Florida goes through exactly what to expect, exactly what is going to come in what order, how much they can expect to spend on an inspection. Depending on the age of the home, there might be additional inspections that you might have to do, and listing some of those out to where they're like, oh my God, how would I know this if I didn't have her? Right. And so after we go through that, next is I got to give them again something that they want because now they're a little bit afraid. So now I'm going to go into discussing the market conditions and doing the actual property search with them, taking all of the questions and all of the needs and wants that we just did, and we're going to do it together on the computer. I want them to see in real time what comes up. Because if I go do the search after they leave and there were no matches, which can happen in a low inventory market, and I say, oh, well, there were no matches, so I'm going to up your price point to find you what you need. This is why they think we're slimy, right? So I want them to see in real time, are there a lot of options? Are there only a few options? How can we make it so we can find closer to what it is that you're looking for? So doing that in person, I believe that's another chance to build rapport. And I joke with them, I'm like, look, I'm going to be watching your face. So if you go like, ooh, I'm going to ask you why. And if I see you get excited, I'm going to ask you why too. So the more that you give me right now is going to help me down the road. Okay. Now, a big part of what I believe is important in that consult is explaining the role of a realtor. That seems simple. However, what I mean by that is how many of you guys have worked with a client who previously had another realtor, and when they came to you, they said they felt like their realtor wasn't doing anything because they were the ones finding all the properties all the time. The problem is they didn't understand what the role of the realtor was. So for me, I explain it to them and I break it down. And I'm like, look, back in the day when my grandma was a realtor, The consumer needed the realtor to find the properties. They had one book that got published every week, every month with one picture this big, and the realtor had to pick out all of the homes for them to go see. So the job of the realtor then was to find the
Right.
homes and bring the homes to them. Now it's different. You have
Hmm.
access to almost all of the same homes right at your fingertips. So the job of a realtor anymore isn't showing you the homes that are on the market. You can see all the homes on the market. The job of a realtor now is to make sure that you are protected. Make sure that you have strategies to be able to have your offer stand out in a multiple offer situation, to write you a contract that's protected from now until close, and to make sure that you've got someone negotiating in your corner so that you feel good at the end of this. The reason why I do this is to prevent them going from me to another realtor because they thought that I wasn't doing my job finding them the homes. It seems so simple, but guys, let me tell you, adding that into my consult made a huge difference because people don't know what they don't know. And if they're talking to their mom or their grandma who bought a house 30 years ago, they're going to say, "Well, why are you sending them all the houses?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they be finding you the houses?" Right? They just don't know. So explaining to them what your actual job is super important.
Yeah, I that's really important because that definitely has happened to us at least once
Yeah,
in
it
our
happens all
career.
the time. And so
Or you've
going
heard
through
it
that
from other buyers that
exactly,
yeah.
right? And so for me, going through the market conditions so they know what it's actually like today, right? Again, they were talking to their friend, their family member, et cetera, who hasn't bought a home in a long time, or they were reading the headlines in the news. I want to get ahead of that and let them know that, hey, look, it's great that you guys are getting informed. You're looking at what's online, what's on the news. All of that is national.
Yeah.
I'm here to be your hyper local resource so that you know what's going on in our market.
I think another good question to ask that a lot of us don't is after you show the house, or after like you're going to show like, 5 or 6 homes,
Mhm.
after you show each house and you're walking outside, say, is this a house that you would consider making an offer on? And if they say no, then find out why, because based on what they initially told you, they should like this house,
Right,
right?
right.
So what
So
about it don't they like?
yeah, so like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this house?
Right.
Oh, it's a 6. Well, what makes it a 6? What would it have to make it a 10?
Yeah.
Right? And then I'm the queen of cheese, right? And so I always would at the end of after the first 2 showings, I'd say, "Okay, so let's pretend these are the only 2 houses on the market. If you had to make a decision right now, which one would you move forward with?" And then I'm quiet until they make
Let's
a decision.
pretend we're on House Hunters.
Right. Exactly. Okay. And so if you had to make that decision right now, what would it be? And the reason that I do that is so that when they pick one, here's the cheese, I would crumple up the paper from the other showing and throw it in my purse because I'm not a litterer. Okay. And
I was gonna say you better not throw it on the ground.
and what that does is that by the end of the showing day, I know which property was number one. Right? Because after the first 2, we did it and they picked one. Then after we saw the next one, okay, again, now if those were the only 2, which one would you pick?
Yeah.
And by the end, I knew which property to talk about. There was no question in my mind which one was number one in their book from that day. Now, they might not move forward with any of them, and that's okay, but at least I know which one's number one.
Yeah, for sure. So as we're wrapping up, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Um, you know, there I don't want to get too in the weeds with this settlement because a lot of us
Yeah.
don't really know, like we're not attorneys, right? We don't A lot of us don't know like the intricacies. But in a nutshell, there may be a situation where the seller is not willing to pay the commission to the buyer agent. So, what kind of conversation or what kind of conversation would you have with a buyer if that were the case?
So there's a couple things, right? So right now, I'm just making sure I'm putting myself in the right rooms. I'm talking to Gary Keller. I'm talking to top buyers agents around the country, agents who live in states where this has been mandated for a long time, right? To figure out what are they doing, because we've never had to deal with that. And so a part of the consult that's going to change is asking them, do you know how I get paid? And then when they answer, right, sometimes they say, oh, well, I think it's commission, right? And who pays that?
Right.
You can give them the option and say, look, there's going to be some sellers who are unwilling to pay the buyer agent commission. This is my flat fee. So if one of those is a home that you're interested in, the only option then would be for you to cover the cost of that commission, or it's a it's not a home that we consider. Now, we can also write an offer and see if the seller is willing to pay that commission and try and negotiate it, but there's no guarantee. So we will have to cross that bridge when we get there. Some buyers are going to choose to only look at homes where they're willing to pay a commission. Some of them are only going to, we really don't know how it's going to pan out, is really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we
And
don't know what the buyer agency agreements, how they're going to change. We don't know how listing agreements are going to change. There's a lot up in the air right now. So all I know is that I'm putting myself in the right rooms and talking to the right people so that I can make sure I can bring people like you guys the most up-to-date information.
yeah.
I want to just real quick, two things. We have two moments.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that I want to talk about that's really helped me in my consults, especially in this market, is the reverse property search. So what that is again, we're doing that property search in person, and then there's no results. It can be really, really disheartening to a buyer. Now, some buyers will say, oh, well, I know it's low inventory, it'll come up. And then that's a buyer that just keeps getting passed down the line and deeper down the funnel. So instead of just letting that be okay, at that moment, what I would say is let's go ahead and change up this search really quick. And let's look at the last 6 months with the same criteria, but looking at closed sales. So we can see in the last 6 months, were there homes that you would have bought if you were in the market? And if there are, it's safe to assume that there's going to be homes that come up in the next 6 months that would work. If there aren't, would you agree it's safe to assume that there isn't going to be ones that come up in the next 6 months? That is, again, going to help them see in real time, is what I'm looking for realistic, or do we need to make adjustments? I'm letting the data speak for me rather than me speak for the data. They're going to believe that data a lot more than they are going to believe to me. I just wanted to make sure that I got that out there because I think that that is a big game changer in today's market that you guys can implement immediately and start to really help your clients move through that funnel faster.
Yeah.
I'm also going to drop in the chat real quick a jot form if there was anything that you felt was interesting today. If you want more information, you want to be on no, you want to hear from me whenever I get new information as things are changing. Make sure you guys go and fill that out so I can keep you in my little huddle and keep you guys informed so that you can always be at the top of your game.
Awesome. And I also I'll post it again. I dropped your email
My email.
address.
Yep. Yeah. So guys,
Um,
I'm a
I'll
coach with
drop it
Keller
again just
Williams.
in case.
Yeah. I'm a coach with Keller Williams Maps Coaching.
Yeah, I
I
was
have,
going to mention that.
yeah,
Saria's
I've
a
got,
maps coach.
yep,
So
it's true.
if you are also interested in talking to her about that and having someone like her, consistently coaching you through this on a weekly basis, she's open to chatting about what that looks like too.
Awesome. Would love that. But thank
Um,
you for always get me out here and helping the word get out.
yeah, and this is going to be on the Lab Coat Agents YouTube channel. In a few days, I got to edit it and make it look all profesh. But I do think, I think that it's going to be a new world for everybody, for buyers, for agents, and I don't think everyone has all the answers right now. I think we're all going to be navigating through it together. So, just kind of, I feel like you're saying, so you're like, get yourself with some really higher level buyer agents who you can go through this with together, and you can mastermind with, and you can bounce ideas off of, and you can share stories with, Put yourself in those, quote unquote rooms, and just help each other out. And,
And
groups like
start focusing,
LCA,
guys, start focusing on knowing your value. I
true.
want to challenge you to try and write down
Oh, that's a
why
good one.
someone should work with you. And if you can't, that's what we need to work on is figure out why you would hire you. And if you wouldn't, figure out who you would hire, what you would like them to do, and how you can start to do that in your business.
And you know, th- your buyer listing consultation or strategy session
Mhm.
should be similar to your listing consultation, right? Like it should be
Yep.
something that they can see. It should be something that they could physically take with them.
Yep.
And when you get to that commission part and they're not willing to pay you, they didn't see the value.
Exactly. Now, I have a video on YouTube of a buyer consultation that I did in 2017. It's really great for the framework. I know we don't use cheese letters anymore, but we used them then. That little asterisk there, okay? But that will help you with the framework of what that consult should look like, how to go deeper in those questions. So I just dropped that link in the chat as well.
Yeah, and here's the jot form again if you want to be up to date on what Saria um Saria's thoughts and her updates and her adventures, her journeys. Maybe she'll send you pictures of her cute little baby.
She's the cutest.
But no, there's a lot of great feedback in the chat. So we appreciate you guys being here. It was a great turnout, over 250 people. You guys are super dedicated to your profession, and we're appreciative of you for being here and spending this time with us. So make sure you watch the replay, watch it over and over again, take notes, and reach out to me and Saria if you need anything. And hope you guys had a great time. I told you it'd be fun.
Always fun.
Oh,
And
it'd be
as
fun.
more stuff comes out and we figure out the strategies, we'll probably do another one
We'll
in the
do
future.
another one.
We'll do
Yeah,
another one.
we'll do another one. All right, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.